to discuss stormwater conveyance improvements on Horsepen Bayou, project ID B104-00-00-E002. This virtual community meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to share vital information with the community. And my name is Sparkle Bell, and I'm with the Flood Control District Communications team. I'm joined tonight by a team of district leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on these important flood mitigation projects in your community. We're also joined by staff from area elected officials' offices and community associations. We are glad to see the community so engaged in these projects, and we look forward to continuing to share updates as we keep you all involved. First, we would like to begin tonight's meeting with remarks from Harris County Precinct 2, Commissioner Adrian Garcia.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. I'm Adrian Garcia, Harris County Precinct 2 Commissioner. Thank you to the Flood Control District for hosting this event. And before we begin, I want to send a sincere thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. I know that we are all still working through the impacts of the pandemic, and my hope is that you and your families continue to be safe. If you haven't already, please consider getting vaccinated. If you are hesitant, I completely understand. But I encourage you to speak to your doctor or medical expert to help answer any of your questions or concerns, and hopefully that will lead you to getting your vaccine. My office is hosting ongoing vaccination events throughout our precinct. If you're looking for a place to get vaccinated, be sure to call my office or follow the Harris County Precinct 2 social media pages. My team is updating those on a daily basis. Now let me transition to what brings us here this evening. We're here to talk to you about a flood control project that will help your community. As a part of my new Revive to Thrive initiative, this flood prevention effort will help protect the community and make a major step toward ensuring there are fair and equitable opportunities for communities throughout Precinct 2. Our goal is to focus on revitalization rather than gentrification by empowering communities and creating opportunities for our existing neighborhoods to be more resilient, inclusive, and thriving. With the right investments, resources, infrastructure, commitment, and community involvement, we can all progress and thrive. Harris County works best when all communities are thriving. I'm proud to be from Precinct 2, and I want everyone to know this community is a great place to live, work, and play. This is one of the many flood mitigation projects happening within Precinct 2, aimed at improving our drainage systems to help minimize the impact of major rain events, keeping you, your family, your property, and our communities safe. We know that residents in this community experience flooding during major rain events, including Tropical Storm Allison and, of course, record levels during Hurricane Harvey. This project is intended to help prevent a repeat of those events. Quality infrastructure is not my only responsibility as County Commissioner, but also one of my top priorities. This is why I've tasked my team with taking action and demonstrating real progress to address our community's needs. Things that make a difference and make us better prepared to weather the next storm. I hope you will continue to stay engaged in this process. It's important to remember that your voice, your experiences, and your opinions do matter. Again, we're thankful that you've joined us tonight. Please continue to be safe, and if you haven't already gotten your vaccine, please consider doing so. Have a great night.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. We appreciate you joining us tonight for this meeting. This virtual public meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including an overview of the stormwater conveyance improvements on Horsepen Bayou, the project timeline, and next steps. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or via phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the public comment period. Instructions on how to participate in this virtual meeting are included on this slide on the virtual meeting webpage, and on the Flood Control District's website. I will also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach that portion of the meeting. We will now transition to Jonathan St. Romain, Department Manager with the Flood Control District, who will share information about the district and this project. Jonathan, over to you.
Thank you, Sparkle, and a special thanks to each of you for joining us here tonight. In this presentation, we'll give you a brief overview of this project, but before we get to the project specifics, we want to share with you some information about the Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas legislature in 1937, and that was in response to devastating floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District is governed by the Harris County Commissioners Court and works closely with other entities in our region, such as the Harris County Engineering Department and the City of Houston. The organization was created in part to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. But our mission has expanded greatly since our founding, leading to billions of dollars in federal, state, and locally funded infrastructure improvements in the ground. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in a highly urbanized area. Harris County includes 23 main watersheds, totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. A watershed is a geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. The project we're presenting tonight is in the Bayou watershed, located in southeast Harris County. Our area is flood prone, and here are some reasons why. We do receive extreme rainfall, including that from tropical storms and hurricanes. We have flat, slow draining land and clay soils that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the Flood Control District plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are one of several entities involved in these efforts in our region. When rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions, such as streets and drains managed by the Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city, such as the City of Houston, before it all flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that the Flood Control District owns and maintains. This slide illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from streets and homes. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Flood Control District. When storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. Since it is our policy to avoid any adverse impacts from our projects, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of meetings across Harris County and each watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. As of August 25th, 2021, every project included in the 2018 bond program has been initiated, including 8 projects in the Bayou watershed. A total of more than $1.35 billion in partnership funding has been secured so far to stretch the 2018 bond program even farther. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation, and in some cases, requirements of a particular grant. That said, project lists and projected schedules are updated regularly on our website. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond tables is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we would need funding partners to fully construct the projects in the bond program. As I mentioned, we've had some success so far, having secured more than $1.35 billion in partner funds. And this graphic illustrates the many sources of those partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding. So the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. We'll now move into the part of the program that is specifically about the Armand Bayou watershed and stormwater conveyance improvements on Horsepen Bayou. The stormwater conveyance improvements on Horsepen Bayou project is one of 8 projects in the Armand Bayou watershed included in the 2018 bond program. The Armand Bayou watershed is located in southeast Harris County and encompasses portions of the cities of Houston, Pasadena, Deer Park, LaPorte, and Taylor Lake Village. Armand Bayou flows in a southward direction from its headwaters near Deer Park to its mouth at Clear Lake. The watershed covers about 59 square miles and has 5 primary streams, including Horsepen Bayou. There are about 89 miles of open streams within the watershed, including the primary streams as well as the tributary channels. Sizable floodplains exist in areas along the main channel and in Pasadena, Deer Park, and LaPorte. The watershed is also vulnerable to storm surge from hurricanes or tropical storms. Regional planning is important on Armand Bayou due to past structural flooding. And for more on the Armand Bayou watershed planning study, please visit the watershed webpage at www.hcfcd.org/Armand. The visual on this slide shows the typical project life cycle of a flood risk reduction project. We last presented this project to the community in July of 2020 during the preliminary engineering stage, which is the fact-gathering stage of the project life cycle. At that time, we shared with you the 5 alternatives we were studying. Since then, we finalized our engineering analyses, incorporated your feedback, and selected the alternative that best and most efficiently meets our mission of providing flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. The project has now advanced to the final design stage, represented by the arrow, which is what we will be sharing with you today. Before we do so, I'd like to take a moment to recap the project history. In July 2020, the Flood Control District hosted a virtual community engagement meeting sharing details and proposed alternatives determined during the preliminary engineering stage of the project lifecycle. During this stage, the Flood Control District evaluated cost-effective improvements along the main stem of Horsepen Bayou and tributaries B104-04, B104-08, and B204-04, as highlighted in yellow on this project map. We also examined potential benefits of expanding the stormwater detention basin north of Space Center Boulevard. Our analysis used current rainfall expected in a 0.2% annual chance event or 500-year storm. This data is being used as an approximation of the future 1% annual chance event or 100-year storm expected from the ongoing MapNext floodplain map update effort. For more on MapNext, please visit its website at www.mapnext.org, and that's MAAPNEXT.org with 2 A's. Alternatives were identified and presented as potential conveyance improvements to Horsepen Bayou, and that's alternatives from the preliminary engineering report. The recommended alternative from this process was the widening of Horsepen Bayou by an average of 20 feet, adding approximately 10 feet to both sides of the channel. This alternative was selected as it provided the least impact to the residents, could be accomplished using existing right-of-way, and provided the most benefit for the estimated cost to construct. While the preliminary engineering report did study other tributaries of Armand Bayou, as mentioned before, it was determined that these tributaries had the necessary conveyance capability and as such did not warrant improvements at this time. This is because peak flows and water levels in the tributaries tend to be governed by the water level in the B104 main channel. It's important to note that following the virtual community engagement meeting, the Flood Control District conducted additional analysis for the preliminary engineering report based on comments and feedback received from the community. This additional work included analysis of the Garden Creek Way Bridge and was completed at the end of 2020. In spring of 2021, Harris County Commissioners Court accepted the preliminary engineering report and authorized the design and construction stages of this stormwater conveyance improvements project. Here's another look at the current project area. As mentioned in the previous slide, the limits for this project have been refined following the preliminary engineering stage. The updated project area now involves approximately 3 miles of Horsepen Bayou between Bay Area Boulevard and Clear Lake City Boulevard, as highlighted in purple on this map. Horsepen Bayou is located east of Galveston Road, which is State Highway 3, draining in an area around Ellington Field and Clear Lake City. Horsepen Bayou is a man-made channel. However, it has become naturalized over time, and federally protected wetlands can be found near the water surface. Design is now underway for this project, which aims to reduce flooding to nearby neighborhoods through stormwater conveyance improvements to Horsepen Bayou. Key project components include, first, the widening of Horsepen Bayou by an average of 20 feet and spot erosion repairs between Bay Area Boulevard and Clear Lake City Boulevard. Second, the creation of a maintenance access shelf below the top of the channel bank along portions of the channel. And third, modifications to the Garden Creek Way Bridge over tributary B204-04. And so let's take a closer look at these improvements. To improve Horsepen Bayou's ability to convey stormwater, the Flood Control District will widen the channel by an average of 20 feet. In this graphic, which we need to point out is not to scale, you are looking at a depiction of a cross-section of the channel with homes and streets at the top, the channel in the middle, and the water surface in blue down at the bottom. The exact width will vary across the length of the project area, but it is anticipated that the widening will be an average of 10 feet on both sides of the channel. Widening will take place above the water and above the federally protected wetlands that are located near the normal water level. Avoiding impacts to wetlands removes the necessity of seeking additional federal environmental permitting, which can delay the project and significantly increase the cost. Widening the channel by an average of 20 feet allows the project to move forward without the need for further property acquisition. And here's that diagram again. Widening of the channel by way of a shelf above the water allows for creation of an all-weather maintenance access shelf. Most flood control district projects include a 30-foot maintenance berm at the top of the bank. However, this is not possible for this project due to limited space at the top of the bank after widening. The new maintenance access shelf will be below the top of the bank, but above the normal water surface level. This shelf, where you see the vehicle in the not to scale diagram, will provide access for both routine mowing and maintenance and for potential future needed repairs. As part of creating this maintenance shelf, the Flood Control District will utilize retaining walls under El Dorado Boulevard and 2 bridges within the Bay Oaks Country Club golf course. This shelf will vary in width along the channel beginning at Bay Area Boulevard and ending at Pine Lock Bridge. At this location, there will be enough access for regular maintenance to resume at the top bank. In doing so, the Flood Control District accomplishes the project objectives of widening the bayou while also providing for maintenance access in the most cost-effective manner. The other key component of the Channel Conveyance Improvement Project is modifications to the Garden Creek Way Bridge over tributary B204-04. The new bridge will replace box culverts to help increase stormwater conveyance and reduce flood risks. While bridge modifications were not part of the originally recommended alternative for the Horsepen Bayou Conveyance Improvements Project, we heard a call from the community to address issues with this bridge. This bridge will be packaged separately for bidding, and this will enable the Flood Control District to proceed with construction on either project without the other delaying the overall timeline. As a result of this project, the anticipated benefits include approximately 68 acre-feet of additional stormwater storage volume within the project area. An acre-foot is a unit of measurement, 1 acre of water, 1 foot deep. Additional stormwater storage volume results in a reduction of the Atlas 14 1% or 100-year water surface elevation in the project area of approximately 1/10 of a foot to 1/2 a foot, or about 0.13 feet to 0.46 feet. This will remove the threat of flooding for an estimated 256 homes in the 0.2% or 500-year floodplain, which we are using as an approximation of what is expected to be the new Atlas 14 1% or 100-year floodplain. The Garden Creek Way Bridge modification results in a water surface elevation reduction of approximately 1/2 foot to 1 foot upstream of tributary B104-04. We also want to take a moment here to mention encroachments. As part of this project, the Flood Control District will address encroachments along Horsepen Bayou. An encroachment is defined as unauthorized use of Flood Control District right-of-way. Encroachments can obstruct channels, prevent needed maintenance, or interfere with important flood risk reduction projects. Examples of encroachments include fences, stored items, landscaping, or other structures such as a shed that are placed on or extend into the Flood Control District's right-of-way. On this slide, you see an example from another neighborhood of a fence encroachment. Following the 2018 bond election, with new state encroachment legislation and a new encroachment department at the Flood Control District, we now have a system-wide approach to addressing encroachments. As such, all residents with encroachments should receive a letter from the Flood Control District with more information. If you have questions about a specific address, we probably won't be able to provide answers tonight, but we can put you in touch with our encroachment department after tonight's meeting. And this brings us to the next steps for this project. Design is anticipated to be completed by the end of 2022. And once design is wrapped up, construction will follow in 2023. And as previously mentioned, construction of the channel improvements and bridge modifications may occur on different timelines. And I'll now turn the program back over to Sparkle to kick off the Q&A.
Thanks, Jonathan. Before we move into the Q&A, I want to share a quick reminder that we'd love to hear from you on this and other projects moving forward across the county. To learn more about this project, to ask questions, or to sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/CI023. Now, as a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. I see so many of you out there, and thank you for your questions that we already have. You can also submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/CI023, or you can submit a comment via phone using the meeting code 1861. And if you're calling us tonight via phone, just press *6 to leave a message and ask a question. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the public comment period. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be available on the district's website and YouTube channel. Now, joining Jonathan tonight for our Q&A session is Brandy Zenon, who is project manager for this project. Now it's time to take some of your questions. All right, and with that, Brandy, the first question is for you. John wants to know whether access along Horsepen Bayou for this section can be made available to citizens as was done for the hike and bike trail between Clear Lake High School and the University of Houston Clear Lake. Brandy, you're muted.
My apologies about that. Thank you guys for joining. That was a great question. We support the multi-use of our facilities for recreational and for open spaces. However, the Flood Control District does not construct or maintain recreational amenities such as trails, but we welcome partnerships with other entities who wish to do so along these along as those amenities do not interfere with the properties or our project's primary purpose for flood risk reduction purposes. One thing I want to note for this particular project, as Jonathan mentioned in the presentation, that we are using existing right-of-way. So right-of-way is limited. At this time, we haven't been aware of any partnerships or entities that are looking to do a trail in this area. But however, if that is something that is brought to our attention or someone is interested, they will contact us and move forward if possible with that amenity.
All right, thank you for that, Brandy. Our next question is for you, Jonathan. Norman wants to know, when construction begins, will you start at Bay Area Boulevard and work north?
So that's a good question. It's a little too early to say how it's going to happen. I think typically when we see channel work constructed, that would take place from the downstream end and go up. But we also typically won't dictate means and methods of the contractor unless there's some special reason or some access issues with which we would need to address here in the final design stages. If there's any special constructability issues that we would need to address, especially in terms of access or limited access. And so our consultant will take a look at that as they get these plans finalized. And if there's anything special, related to access or where the construction activity is going to take place first, we'll let the community know. And before construction starts, we do send out a construction notice to let everybody know when it's going to start taking place.
All right, thanks. Brandy, our next question is for you. Will there be any additional right-of-way needed for this project?
No. The good thing about this project, our design alternatives or the recommended alternative for final design takes in the account for the existing right-of-way that we do have. So our project will stay within the existing right-of-way that Flood Control owns.
All right, great. And another one for you, Brandy, as well. Will the project have any impacts on the newly constructed El Dorado Road?
There will not be any impacts to the El Dorado Bridge, as we took into account and was made aware of the design of that bridge. So we incorporated those plans into our design to make sure that we wouldn't negatively impact that project.
All right, and we are receiving a few questions about other parts of the watershed outside of this specific project area. Obviously, this meeting is to talk about a very specific project. If you have concerns about maintenance, there is a service request form located at hcfcd.org. It's in the top toolbar of hcfcd.org. We encourage you to submit maintenance requests there. And as I mentioned earlier, any questions not addressed during tonight's session, we will follow up following the close of the public comment period. All right, our next question is for you, Jonathan. Why are encroachments an issue now if they haven't been in the past?
Yes, that's a good question. I know that can be frustrating, but following Hurricane Harvey and with additional funding from the 2018 bond program, the pace of new flood risk reduction projects by the flood control district has really greatly increased. And this has brought the issue of encroachments to the forefront. So the flood control district's encroachments removal program exists to enforce access to our rights of way, which, as we mentioned in the very first couple of slides, that's more than 2,500 linear miles of channel under our jurisdiction. And this encroachments removal program was created as a result of House Bill 3782, approved during the 85th legislative session. Encroachment can obstruct stormwater conveyance and make it more difficult to build and maintain important flood risk reduction projects. And so just with the sheer volume and increase of our work and our projects lately, it's really brought this issue to the forefront and enabled us to enact this encroachment removal program.
All right, thank you so much for that. We wanted to, at this time, just thank all of you all for being out there. We have nearly 150 viewers on tonight. We like to see a good turnout, so thank you for spending your evening with us and being engaged in this particular project. I also have a little reminder from my fabulous team here at Flood Control that our citizen service number is 346-286-4197. Again, that's 346-286-4197. So if you're joining us via phone tonight and that's your preferred method of contact, you can contact us via phone as well if you're unable to utilize the web form found from the homepage of hcfcd.org. All right, those questions are continuing to come in. We have another question, and I'll let Brandy take this, and it is, are there plans to connect Horsepen Bayou with Exploration Green Stormwater Detention Project?
I'm not real familiar at the exact location of where the Exploration Green Stormwater Detention project is. However, this project is a standalone project that will only be within the project limits that are shown on your screen now, which is just north of Clear Lake City Boulevard, all the way down to Bay Area Boulevard.
Yeah, and I can add to that a little bit. And I'm looking through a map here. So the Exploration Green project, I guess we understand that that's going to be detention basin project or projects up on the tributaries. And so while these aren't technically directly related, they do somewhat work hand in hand. And so any detention project that gets done by the flood control district or another entity, such as a city or MUD utility district, is a good thing. And so, of course, the waterways are connected. And so those detention projects are going to help overall flood risk reduction in the area. If you're asking the question from a standpoint of connection of these facilities or these projects via trails, that's something that would have to be determined in the future. I think we talked about it a little bit ago, maybe the first question to Brandy about potential for hike and bike trails, and that would really have to happen with a partner that the flood control district usually works with, such as another city or Harris County precinct or utility district for that kind of connection.
All right, Brandy, the next question is for you. Can you provide an approximate timeline for construction? We have a caller that has expressed some concerns about wildlife being interrupted during construction.
Yes, so our design is anticipated and scheduled to be complete toward the end of this year. And then once we go through the bidding phase and award the contract, we look for construction to start sometime in the early part of 2023. The duration of the actual construction contract or the length of the construction contract is still, we're still finding or tuning the details of that as we finalize the design. But we'll have that information made available before we go out to bid, and will be updated on our website to allow you to know how long you can expect for construction to be within that area.
All right, thank you so much for that. All right, our next question is for you as well, Brandy. Will any existing trees be removed, and when can we see the specifics about this?
Yes, it's likely that some trees will need to be removed to accommodate the widening of the channel section. We do understand that trees are very important to the community and to the natural features of the channel. However, if the trees do impact the access for us to be able to do construction, we will identify what those trees are so that we can have those removed and or possibly relocated to a different area while construction is going on. However, we're always open to opportunities to replace trees that have to be removed due to access, which would follow up after at the conclusion of construction by our infrastructure department. And there are several ways that we could implement those trees, but we will make sure that those trees that do have to be removed and we do replace, we'll make sure that in the future that they don't impede any access that we may need for maintenance purposes, as well as if the trees are not necessarily removed or have to be removed, we do take precautions to possibly trim like the lower parts of the tree so the trucks can get by, or also put up a buffer fence to help protect those trees. Though the identifying which trees will happen will only take place right before construction, and there's really no specific map that we typically don't provide. However, I definitely will take that back to the project team to see if that's something that we can possibly provide on the website of identifying those trees in those areas where it could be potentially impacted.
All right, thank you. We've also received a question from a resident concerned about vehicles and motorcycles along the bayou and wants to know how that's being addressed. Jonathan, will you take that one?
Sure, I can take a stab at it since that is in our flood control district right of way. You could go onto our website and send us a comment for public input or even service request. And that might help us get through to maybe the local precinct or constable's office, depending on what would be appropriate there.
All right, thank you for that. We also have a viewer who joined late and is asking about a recording of this presentation. Throughout tonight's meeting, you've seen this slide that is listed, and it has the URL for this project page. Please make note of that. As following the meeting, we will post the video recording of this meeting along with the presentation on the website, where you can view it back and in all its glory and listen to all of our questions and responses. All right, our next question is for you, Brandy. How will Bay Oaks Country Club golf cart bridges be impacted by this project?
We don't see that they're going to be negatively impacted by this project. They will still be able to exist once we do the expansion. However, like Jonathan mentioned about us doing soil nail designs to allow the maintenance access to go underneath those bridges. So we're not going to touch the bridges, but we are going to be able to put up soil nails and a design to help us maintain our access to the channel to do maintenance work without impacting those bridges.
All right, thank you all for your questions. We have some really great participation tonight, and we really appreciate it. So at this time, I just want to remind you that there are a couple of ways to submit a comment. You can continue doing what you are doing right now, which is submitting a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also submit comments on the district's website at hcfcd.org/CI023. And again, that's where we'll be posting the meeting presentation along with the video following the meeting. And you can submit a comment via phone. If you're joining us via phone tonight, just press *6 and leave a message with your question. All right, we're going to dive right back into our questions. And our next one is for you, Jonathan. Will this project increase the risk of flooding for the homes upstream of the Bay Area Bridge by not addressing the bridge as a possible pinch point?
Good question, and the answer is no. So just in general, none of our projects can or will increase flooding for any other areas. We have a no impact policy, and so in all of our projects, we run impact analyses to ensure that there will not be an adverse impact to another area just by doing a project in one particular area. In this particular case, you're asking about the very downstream end and the fact that we are not doing anything with the Bay Area Boulevard Bridge. But what we are doing is widening Horsepen Bayou, channel B104, about 20 feet along the entire length of that. And so the widening of this channel produces about 68 acre feet of additional stormwater storage volume. And that's really a significant amount. And so that helps to increase conveyance, but it also helps to provide some what we would call inline storage or inline detention inside that in the increased or widened channel there. And so by providing the 68 acre feet of stormwater storage volume, we reduce peak water surface elevations in the project area by between 1/10 of a foot and 1/2 a foot. And that doesn't sound like much, but those are actually fairly significant numbers, especially down here in this part of the county. When we're in fairly low elevations. And so the result of all that is removing about 256 homes from what we call the 0.2% or 500-year floodplain. And so the answer is no. By not doing anything with the Bay Area Boulevard Bridge, we're not causing any adverse impact, and the project as a whole does provide a fairly significant benefit for a large area in your neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Our next question is for you, Brandy. When will the final design plans be available for viewing by the public?
Final design plans are estimated to be or anticipated to be complete by the end of this year as we go into bidding. But the actual issue for construction plans won't be available to after we submit that over or start of construction. And I say that just because we'll have our final design. However, during the bidding phase, there could be revisions that are necessary based off of comments or questions that we may receive from potential bidders. So what actually will be submitted to the actual contractor submit what we call is the issue for construction construction plans, which will be made available after the project is fully awarded to that contractor.
All right, and Jonathan, I think these next two questions go together. They're all about funding. We often get questions about funding. It is, will funding for this project require another bond program and potential tax increase? And then is the project fully funded?
So the answer is, as of now, the project is fully funded in the bond program. This project is under bond ID CI-023, or the CI stands for community input, as this was added to our bond program list based on community input. And that number in the bond program is $6 million. And so as of our latest engineer's estimate, we are right around that $6 million mark for the project. And so we do anticipate it at this time to be fully funded. I'll give the caveat that, of course, we, as we see cost increases in a lot of areas, that could change. But for now, we do feel like we're fully funded. In terms of another bond program or tax increase, I certainly can't comment on the tax increase or the potential for another bond program.
All right. And the next question is for Jonathan as well. When can we expect to see construction start?
Sometime in early 2023. So Brandy talked a little bit about the timeline for finalizing design. Once we get those construction plans finalized around the end of the year, as Brandy mentioned, we go through our bidding process. And during that bidding process, when we publicly advertise the project and let contractors bid on the plans, there could be a couple of changes in there. And that always takes time because there's a certain period of time to publicly advertise and then receive bids and then put our contract documents together following that. And so that puts us beginning construction sometime in early or spring of 2023.
All right, and I just want to remind everyone, so we have about 15 minutes left in tonight's meeting, so still time to ask your questions. Go ahead and keep those questions coming in by submitting them in the box near the presentation live stream or submitting them on the website at the URL listed on your screen. Or if you are joining us via phone, just press *6 to leave a message and to ask a question. With that, Brandy, I'd like for you to just talk a little bit about how we got to where we are right now in this stage of the project.
Yes. So this project, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, that it came from the community input, or at our bond meeting at the very beginning of the program, asked us to take a look at possibly doing a flood reduction project within this area. So from your input, it's kind of got us to be able to study the area to see if there was a project that was in need. And from the PER, or the preliminary engineering study that we conducted, we did find that this project does warrant some benefit to the public in this area. So from there, we presented to the public kind of what the alternatives were and what we were recommending as far as moving forward. And again, with additional feedback that we received, not only from the community, but from other entities that we had met with within that area, suggested about us combining alternatives to see if we considered that option. And so we went back and did some additional analysis that combined alternative 1, which was widening the channel by 20 feet, as well as combining it with alternative 3, which meant widening the channel, the consists of widening the channel, adding the storm detention basin, as well as the adjustment to the culverts on the Garden Creek Way Bridge. And so once we looked at those alternatives and realized that the basin wasn't providing much benefit, we revised it to only include the revisions to the culverts by taking the culverts out and replacing it with a single span bridge to provide additional water surface reduction within the area. And so once we saw those benefits, we decided to move forward into final design, which where we are right now. We've completed the 50% design of this project. And so we are tightening up the details on the plan set and confirming some more calculations within the project area so that we can produce a final product that we feel comfortable moving forward with it for construction.
All right, our next question is for you, Jonathan. Are you going to widen the natural drainage streams that runs from Clear Lake City Boulevard to Horsepen Bayou behind Almond Creek?
No, so that is not part of this project, and for a few reasons. There is a good map of it. So we're talking about if you look at the very top end of that purple shading, I think we're talking about that channel that runs to the east and then south. In this area, we're really looking towards what we call bypass channel B204 that runs from the B104 past Garden Creek Way Bridge to the south and then takes a right hook towards Horsepen Bayou. That B204 channel is really handling the bulk of the flow there. And so that would be our focus to widen. We also have the Garden Creek Way Bridge that is part of this project, and modifying that bridge section helps to reduce peak water surface elevations in this area. And really the third reason that we're not going to touch the channel that you asked about there behind Almond Creek Drive is it's really in an environmentally sensitive area. It's more of a natural channel that's got trees and meandering stream. And so that's something that we're able to avoid and definitely don't want to impact because of the environmental sensitivities there.
All right, the next question is for you as well, Jonathan. How will the natural downstream area be protected from silt or sediment during construction?
Yeah, so all of our construction projects require, or all of our designs for construction require stormwater pollution prevention plans. And there's many TCEQ, Texas Center on Environmental Quality, requirements of contractors to prevent silt and sediment during construction. And so there's various means and methods for that. I think a lot of times you see what we call filter fabric fence that is staked along project boundaries and other things that get put in place to prevent silt and sediment from entering the channel.
All right, Brandy, this next question is for you. Can you show us the 256 homes that will see the floodplain removed?
Unfortunately, we won't be able to narrow down into to zoom in as close to where you can actually pinpoint an address. However, in our preliminary engineering report, we have like a general area where those homes will be located. That's something that again, I can bring back to the project team and see if we can be provided on the website, but we typically don't narrow down to that big of a detail to where you can see like certain which addresses will be included in 256 homes. You would just see just the potential area of where it can be where you can see that benefit.
Okay, and Jonathan, can you talk about project cost? What's the cost of this project?
Sure. Right now, our latest engineer's estimate is at about $6 million. And once our design is finalized as we head into the construction stage, our engineering consultant will refine that number. But right now, we're at right about $6 million.
All right, and Brandy, we have a question, and it is, will you sell the soil removed to help manage the cost of this project? This was done for the Exploration Green project.
The flood control district doesn't typically sell off the soil for our projects. However, we do typically go into E&R contracts with contractors where they have the ability to dig on a flood control property to a certain depth or design parameters that we give them, and they have the freedom to use that soil however they choose to. For this particular project, we have gone the route of actually bidding out this project to the contractor who will be responsible for excavating the material within the to widen the channel, and have the responsibility of disposing it at an approved disposal site. So the contractor has to submit where they're going to be disposing the site, and we have to make sure that it's not going to be within the floodplain and it meets certain environmental requirements. And that's the extent of, for this particular project, that what the flood control do with the disposal soil.
All right, and I just want to remind everyone, I've said it a couple of times tonight, but we are receiving quite a few questions. We love the participation. Thank you. We do follow up with anyone that has asked a question and participated in this meeting. We follow up after the close of the public comment period in writing. So if you don't hear your question tonight, do not feel like you will not get a response. You will get a response following the close of the public comment period. And if you think of a question after this meeting, you are welcome to go to our website and submit a question to us there as well. All right, with that, we'll keep this moving. Our next question is for Jonathan. Will the project protect the homes that flooded during Harvey along Brook Forest Drive?
So first, we certainly can't tell you that that you won't flood again, or this project is going to prevent anyone from flooding. But in general, this project will reduce the risk of flooding. And as I look over to Brook Forest Drive, we're right there along Channel B104. I'd say, yeah, this project does help Brook Forest Drive. I can't tell you exactly how much. It may depend on just exactly where your address is there along the street. But yes, this project will provide flood risk reduction for homes along Brook Forest Drive.
All right, thank you for that. Jonathan, we have a question about water surface elevations and what it means when we say the project will lower it by a certain amount. Can you explain what this means, what is included, and how it's calculated?
Sure. So when we talk about water surface elevations, we're talking about the peak or highest elevation that that the water gets to in a channel in a given storm event. And so our consultants use sophisticated hydrologic and hydraulic modeling to determine existing conditions, and then they apply a specific storm event to those models, and that's what we would call proposed conditions. And in those proposed conditions, as a result of a very heavy rain event, we take the worst of it, the worst, which would be the highest water surface elevation. And so that's what we look at trying to reduce, is that peak that peak level or peak storm event or peak water due to the storm event, because it's that peak or that highest water surface elevation that is going to do the flooding of the area. And so we look to reduce that. We propose these projects to lower that peak, and so that's why we give the benefits in terms of a water surface elevation reduction, to say that before the project, the peak water surface elevation in the channel was here, and after the project, the peak water surface elevation in the channel is down lower, and that's the benefit to the project. I hope I explained that well. Please let me know if you need additional clarification, and as Sparkle said, we get back to everyone in writing after the meeting, and so we can certainly help out there.
All right, our next question is for you, Brandy. Why are you only modifying one bridge?
As part of the designing improvements along existing channel and drainage systems, we are governed by a number of conditions. So any proposed improvements cannot increase the rate of water flowing downstream of the project area. So in order to lower the water surface in the channel during a significant rain events, we created additional storage within the project limits. Replacement of the culverts crossing at Garden Creek Way will improve conveyance of flows through the B20404 channel, diversion channel, lowering the water surface elevations upstream of Garden Creek Way. This improved flow condition at the confluence of B20404 and Horsepen Bayou is mitigated by the storage added into the Horsepen Bayou system from B20404 downstream to Bay Area Boulevard.
All right, and I think this will be our final question of the night. It's another question to a resident wants to find out exactly how the project will affect their home, when that will be determined. Oh, I guess, and then our final question will be the start and end point of construction. Brandy, if you'll take both of those, please.
Yes, I'll start with the project limits for this project. We'll start just north of Clear Lake Boulevard, City Boulevard, I'm sorry, down to the downstream limits is going to be Bay Area Boulevard, which can be shown in the slide. Here in the picture, it is the highlighted purple line will be our project limits for this particular project. As far as being able to determine how this project is going to be going to affect a specific home, as someone mentioned before, they mentioned like a street. We can tell you if that street or that area is within the benefit area for this project. But a rule of thumb is usually the houses that are closest to the channel could see the most impact. The most benefit from the channel improvements that we are doing within the project area.
Right, and then just construction and endpoints, and we'll wrap. Construction starting endpoints, rather.
Yes, so yeah, the starting endpoint is what's shown on the screen. Though it's highlighted in the purple line. It's starting just north of the Clear Lake City Boulevard Road on the B20404 channel, and it will end at the Bay Area Boulevard bridge, just upstream of that bridge.
Okay.
Approximately 3 miles of improvements.
All right, great. And with that, I would like to share one final reminder that we are continuing to accept comments and feedback on this project through June 23rd. We also encourage everyone to get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year-round. Thank you again for joining us this evening and for your great engagement tonight with this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward.